Well, hi, my name is Anastasia Traina, and I'm very honored to be here today. Thank you very much, Sherry. I am going to talk mostly about story because I am a storyteller. I started out as a writer of plays and then went to screenplays, and now I'm writing a children's book, which I've always wanted to do. It's called The Curious Tales of Thimble Tarn. But along with writing, I also wanted to be able to draw the pictures. I didn't even know that I wanted to do that until I moved up here to the Berkshires after leaving the business of writing for plays and screenplays. And I never stopped writing, but I wanted to find a new way to tell my stories. And so I used to go to the botanical gardens, the Berkshire Botanical Gardens, and I would walk around there. And one day, this is turning into lore, but I saw a little cricket on this beautiful angelica flower in the Berkshire garden, and I thought, wow, there's a whole world here to explore. And so then I saw that there was a class for botanical art. I had never taken an art class. I drew as a child. In fact, I used to draw these little creatures that my grandma, I lived with my grandma, and she had a little shop on 72nd Street, a little bric-a-brac shop. And outside of her shop, she had cans of espresso cans, and she grew tomatoes in them. And I would create these little creatures with little violet capes, and that would fly around her tomatoes. And, you know, one day she saw my drawing, and she closed her shop early, which was very unusual for my grandma. And she took me up to the Museum of Natural History, and she showed me a prism. And she asked me to look through this prism. Sorry. And she said, what do you see? And I said, it's magic. And she said, never forget to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. And I've never forgotten that lesson. Sorry. Kind of silly. But I love my grandma, and she was my everything. Anyway, so coming up to the Berkshires, I was able to find myself and to finally, after a lifetime of working, to explore who I am and who I've always wanted to be. And so, stumbling on this class at the Berkshire Botanical Gardens with this wonderful, wonderful woman, Carol Ann Morley, who is a great teacher and an artist who thinks out of the box and who never criticized and, you know, completely enjoyed everything that I did and gave me great encouragement. And from there, I went, you know, emboldened by her, you know, support, I went to the New York Botanical Gardens and got my certificate in botanical art. And there I got the sort of, what would I say, all the technical things that I needed to be able to create my creatures. So that's my beginning, and that happened 7 years ago. And since then, I had 2 shows at the Berkshire Botanical Garden. I am an ASBA member, which is the American Association of Botanical Art, and also Tri-State Botanical Art. So I'm very involved, and I really, really love that. Now, one of the things that I find for myself is I sort of got boggled down with the technical aspect of art, but and sort of, forgot about storytelling. And then it dawned on me one day that I needed to explore more. Well, yeah, well, let me see. How do I express this? My storytelling is always there, but I was so concentrated on the technicalities of, can I create this beautiful flower or orange exactly lifelike and everything. And I forgot my purpose. And so I discovered that what I needed to do was have more of a conversation, which was the flower brings its lore, its history, its medicinal purposes. It has a wealth of information that can spur my imagination. And this is how I actually create my creatures, because my very first creature, yes, where is she? Here she is. That I created. She is this little hum flower. And this little hum flower is a hotelier for, it's hard to ease. It's foxglove. And foxglove has a medicinal purpose, which actually doctors use for heart medicine. So her hotel, which is this long, beautiful foxglove, and she takes care of it, is sort of a spa for insects, creatures that are needing to get well. And so they come to her spa. This is the beginning of the Curious Tales of Thimble Tarn, where it's sort of an anthology of all these little magical creatures, sort of like Spoon River, where you go through and find that each one of these has a purpose in the community around this little tarn. So now, that's one way that I discovered, might drop this, hold on. How I wanted to explore the botanical world and all that it had to offer in the idea of storytelling. And there's so much there. And so not only what flowers bring to us as far as storytelling and what they have to offer, but also it's a conversation. And it's play, and this is what brings things to life. This was one of the things that I love most, is seeing things come to life. And that they're not just pretty flowers on a page, but they are actually interacting with the wind or the insect that is pollinating it, or a praying mantis or a cricket that's visiting. Recently I saw a little leaf bug on my dahlia. He stayed there for several days, changing his positions every so often. It was amazing. And that I file in the back of my mind for a story, or because each of my paintings are a story. They're not just a representation of a flower or an orange, as I said before, or an eggplant, but or a butterfly. They're actually floral portraits, so that come with a character and a conversation that I have had with them. And now I started teaching, which is so thrilling for me, and I'm able to teach this incredible process of finding a specimen, being inspired, and then creating a conversation. And, I've invented prompts that I ask my students, like, do you remember this daffodil from your childhood? Or in my last class, which was all about the color violets, because I had this class, it's called The Language of the Flowers, with a splash of violet and a splash of yellow. So each class talks about the color, and the color is a tool that speaks a language. And, you say, oh, well, yeah, yellow is yellow, violet is violet, but no, how do you create a violet that speaks? How do you create a violet that has layers and depth and feeling of passion or coldness? Well, you do that by hues. Like if you have purple and you keep it with light blues, then you are on the cold side. And that actually sends a message to the viewer. If you add oranges and yellows to that violet, it will create warmth. And that sends another message. Yes, I could go on. And also how I create this is by layering different colors of watercolor, which I will show you in the beginning. But in my class, for instance, I've created... So first I started out with, well, how can I do this and make this more fun and have this little rabbit? And each of this has these little spaces where they can create color. And here, this is the map that I give them to sort of follow. And I actually have photographed it on a different paper, because even on this paper, because their paper is white like this, putting color onto a slightly cream paper versus a stark white paper changes the hues and gives us another language, another way of speaking, another... so everything that you use, your paper, your substrates, like whether you work on vellum, for instance, will give you a glow like paper cannot. And often I search for that glow because I love the ethereal look. I love things that are here and there, betwixt worlds, because my fairies or my magical beings or botanical creatures are betwixt the world. And so here we wanted to work with dark violets. So here I took a little like violetta, and I searched, well, how am I going to do that? And you can even see in this little bunny here on the little ear here, this is warm. This has more yellows in it and greens perhaps. Here in this ear, we have a rainbow. So when the viewer looks very close, they will not just see a flat color. They will see yellows, they will see greens, they will see blues, they will see violets, they will see pinks. And this, for me, is a technique that I'm working to improve and accomplish, because for me, I love the idea that there are always many colors in one color. Just like humans, there are many sides to a human being that need exploration. So, yes, even here, this one is more pink and more honey color, and it just sends like warmth. And this is more I almost think of Iceland and all the stark sort of feel, like it's very cool, the light is very cool there, as opposed to, Provence, where it's so beautiful and warm and luscious. So this is a little exercise that I have my students do, and they name everything that they use. So this becomes a map for your creation, which is, you can do it over again, you can learn from it, do it over again. Replicate is the word that I'm looking for, replicate. So, yes. So it's all about exploration for me, and memory, and, things don't always have to be a finished product to be beautiful. These are things that I don't sell, but people ask me to sell just because they love the creation of process. And I'm all about process. It doesn't have to be finished. One of the most beautiful things are never finished. So this peacock feather might have influenced me for the emerald color that is just on the tip of my hum flower. So I have to get up to show you this. So also here, these are blueberries that I grew. So I love the process of from seed to a vibrant life to death. I think this is extraordinary, and what we learn from just watching something blossom and then wither, and how much beauty is in each stage of life. It's magnificent. And then here I was creating a palette for a class I was doing on holly. And, I thought, well, how do I feel like sometimes holly, which captures a light that is blue within it, that gives this stark feel of like this emerald green and this blue. It's phenomenal. It tells this story, but how do I get that sharp? So I have to tone, which is the most beautiful thing about graphite, is that you can color, which not many people realize that color is the same tone, has the same tones you shape with color, the same way you shape as graphite. And so the colors that you use, the deeper colors are the dark, stronger, bolder charcoal, and the lighter feelings are the very delicate, maybe, 2H, 4H, the more lighter pencils. So this was also all about toning and to capture. It's a very strange light that hits it. It's hard, it's cold, but there's still warmth in it. So I was, sort of searching for that so that I could explain it to my students. In this, so I created that board, and also all of these papers behind here I have marbled, and I use them to play with colors to see which colors dance the best together. Let's see. So here, this is a book. So I was asked by a fellow playwright to, before I really could do this, to illustrate his little children's book. It's called Bitsy and Raph. And I thought, okay, I love this story. It was an anti-bullying story. It's about a little reed that lives in this pond and this butterfly, and they're two misfits. And they come together and they find strength together. And so actually this is a drop cap for one of the paragraphs, and I had never done that before, and I thought, okay, how am I going to do this? And this little acorn dropped sitting outside, and I thought, oh, it's this little tree and this little bough, and I'm sitting underneath it, and there came my drop cap. So, yeah, silly, but fun. And then here, this beautiful moth. I love moths. I think moths are more beautiful than butterflies. They're extraordinary. They're fuzzy. They have incredible colors. They head towards the light, and it causes their death. It's just extraordinary. So this little moth here was flying, and towards this. Towards my lamp outside, and the next morning I found him not completely dead, but immobile. So I kept him for a while, and I sketched him, and this little leaf was by him, and so this is his little portrait. This is also pumpkins that I grew, and dragonflies that sort of visited my pumpkins that never grew beyond this size. So I was very disappointed, but I did love the little bits. And they're just information. This was a turban pumpkin that I tried to grow. And here's its seeds. Now I also talked about different substrates and different, so I wanted just to talk about exploration, where exploration is really important because that's also how you find your voice. So this is silver point, and silver point is done by putting gouache or sort of a rabbit glue combination over. I use gouache. It's cheaper. And even if you make it, it's less messy. But this is another way of finding, for me, that glow, that softness, and it's all about exploration. Like, oh, I really love this, and that brings me also to vellum, which is something I also love. And actually, Nick Mangiardo gave me these pieces because he was doing a big project with all sheepskins, and these are his little extras, so it's actually usually quite expensive to get. But anyway, this is a little sort of, I'm forgetting the name right now, mushroom that I found in my forest, and I just went for it, and it was very fun. But you can see, there's a glow that comes from this, and also with vellum you really have to test the different colors because they are different on here than they normally would be on, just say, a normal piece of, watercolor paper. And I always start out with the specimen, and you can see on my table there are lots of specimens there. And I do many drawings, and I do many drawings on tracing paper, because tracing paper is your great friend because it costs practically nothing, and you can play. So these are very fun. These are from a fairy ring in my backyard, and they were in my freezer until this morning, and I did a quick drawing, as you can see, and I'm getting ready for my class that I'm going to have September 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at the Society of New Concord. And what I'm creating for my class, so I sketch. You can erase. It's so great. You can throw this out and start again. And then I make a transfer. So this is my composition. I'm leaning it towards the left because I always love things that fly in. At first I thought they're flying, but and I thought to put them up here. But that didn't look very good to me. It didn't say what I wanted, but this feels more like they're rising, putting it on the lower left corner. So that's the other thing that you can play with your tracing paper, is you can just move things around, and you can decide. You can also cut this up and cut other little pieces and drawings and put them around. That's also a great way to have your composition before you put marks on the paper, because as a botanical artist, you're taught that any mark that isn't intentional on your paper is a bad mark. So that's something that stuck with me. It actually took me a long time not to wear white gloves, but yes. So that's a great thing to have in your back pocket to create a composition. And then this is the other thing that I use, which is, so I just quickly draw them, and then I start to create little patches, little circles, and I have this handy dandy ruler which does that for me, and of circles. And then I play with color. I play with warm browns. I put maybe a Quin Gold, and then maybe I put a raw sienna or raw umber, and I mix them, and I see what, is going to give me that top of that mushroom. And then I'll maybe think of like, I don't know, sort of a buff titanium or a lunar black where I mix. Oh, we're coming to the end. Well, thank you. I've had a great time here. And, I can perhaps show you this at a later date, how I mix and match the colors. And I've had a great time talking here, so thank you very, very much for having me, Sherry. I really appreciate it.